And hey, everybody, thank you for joining us on today's video podcast. My name is Rick Sini, with the co-founder and CEO of FareCompare.com. We're going to chat a little bit about some of my favorite travel topics over the past couple weeks, and one of them is beaches. So, I just got back from doing a little trip in France and hanging out on the southern coast of France. So that's one of my favorite beaches. And joining me today to talk about some of these hidden gems is our editor from the site from California, Anna McDermott. Hey, Ann.
Hey, Rick. Now, some of these gems will not be hidden to everyone, but we just gathered some beaches that
Yeah, sure.
we know are some local favorites, and they're all of them are beautiful. And if you've heard about them, well, forget the hidden part. Just think of the gem part, the diamond part.
Yeah, I noticed we have one from Maine. I've only sort of creased Maine in a car once before. It's definitely on my bucket list, and it sounds like this is definitely one of the places I want to visit.
Yeah, I'm going to embarrass myself and say I don't know how to pronounce it, but I believe it's Roque Bluffs, Maine, Roque, and it's supposed to be incredibly secluded and very beautiful, and it's actually located in what is said to be a gorgeous state park. So I'd say that's definitely one to try. And then another one, Seal Beach, California. Now, a lot of people know Seal Beach. But it's pretty. It's a little calmer than, like, say, its neighbor Huntington Beach next door, which is, big with the surfers, lots of restaurants and stuff. But that's handy too, because if that's the sort of thing you want, you can go right there. It also has a national wildlife refuge where you can see such things as pelicans and turtles. And also, Venice is just down the road. Disneyland is just down the road. All kinds of stuff like that. We have some.
Somebody that lives in California there, and I've been up and down that coast many a time, and Seal Beach is definitely one of the stops.
And in Europe, we've got a beach in Ireland. This is in Northern Ireland. It's called, oh dear, I think it's Fanad Head.
Ireland, but if you're
Head.
Irish, I'm sure it's pronounced definitely.
It's actually it's actually a peninsula, and there are plenty of beaches there, but they are of the wild beach. In fact, this part of the way that you would travel to see this is called Northern Ireland's ruggedly beautiful Wild Atlantic Way. I'd go just based on the name alone. I mean, that's so worth it. And you can see whales and stuff, but it's just rocky, spectacular cliffs and crashing waves. That's my kind of beach. I'm not a Caribbean type person. I want a beach that might rise up and kill you. That said, we also have Hvar, Croatia. I do know how to pronounce that one. On the Dalmatian coast, it's a little island. We're talking about a medieval city setting and just modern resorts and stuff. It just sounds very cool. And now I've got to ask you, have you ever been to Wineglass Bay in Tasmania, Australia?
I have not been, but it's definitely Australia. To be honest, I've only been through there sort of on a little hop across there, so I didn't get a chance to stay very long. And it's definitely on my bucket list for a 2 or 3 week stay, especially catching both Australia and New Zealand. So, I hadn't actually heard of Wineglass Bay, but it sounds very interesting. And anything that has Tasmania in the title is certainly a place I want to visit.
I must go to Australia, and when I do, I will come back and I will write about it. I will talk about it. I won't shut up. I really want to go. And in Asia, we've got a lot of people are familiar with Phuket, a very famous place to go for great beaches, but they also have Naiharn Beach. That's Naiharn. I wish we had a font here, because that's a forest-lined beach, and it's supposed to be very secluded, popular with locals, and just beautiful.
Yeah, no, I think I really enjoy going to beaches, whether they're for, the perfect sand that everybody's looking for. Would put definitely the Caribbean in that category. And then also the craggy beaches, the interesting beaches. Many of the islands, like Ireland, for example, that you mentioned, have some of these great beaches, and some of the west coast of California, for example, and apparently Maine has that too. So I'm definitely off to check all these out.
Well, you mentioned Europe, and this is actually a great time to go to Europe, right?
Yeah, this is wow. I just got back from Europe in a mid-July trip. It was a little bit warm, but the favorite time to go to Europe is in the sort of early fall, very late summer, basically late August, early September time frame. So the weather's perfect. There's not as crowded. There's not as many people. The actual Europeans are back from their vacations, so you get to partake and make sure everybody
You
not
get
just
to meet some.
yeah, so you get to actually meet them. So that's why I think I like that particular time of year. And
Well, I must interrupt. I think you're sort of missing the elephant in the room here, Rick. Airline ticket prices drop.
oh yeah, no, absolutely, the price do drop. August 25th is one of those dates, and then as you get deeper into fall, in mid-October, you get a little break there as well. I spent a lot of time, one of my great passions is golf, so I love links-style golf courses. Those are on typically on some sort of beach location, although they've even built some of these inland to make them look like links courses. So I like that kind of beach, northern, sort of the northeastern coast of Scotland, also on the northwest coast of Scotland, all the way up to the northern coast. Has been some places that I've been to that are really interesting places to visit. So definitely, I would just say one thing about beaches in general. There's something about humans and water. We're drawn to it, and these beaches are certainly on the top list of my bucket list of places to visit when I head out to some of these places.
Have you been to Europe in the wintertime or in the late fall?
I have been to Europe almost every season. I actually was married in Vienna in November, so I'm familiar with Europe when it's a little bit cooler outside. Um, that was a few years ago. So, but I've been there several times. There's been like a couple different times that we've gone during Thanksgiving. Used to Continental, before it became United, would run a sale for business class tickets at about 1/3 the normal cost during Thanksgiving and Christmas. So I've done it a few times, yeah.
But it's, I guess, people that talk about or wonder about, gee, well, I've missed the summer. Can I go to Europe now? I want to say, you may be working your way into the best time of year to go, and even winter. I mean, good
Yeah, well, if
heavens,
you're
if
going to winter, yeah, certainly there's lots of ski locations you can go to in the winter, all across the Alps and throughout many of the places, even into the Scandinavian countries as well. So, any time of year is pretty good, and in fact, that time of year it's extremely inexpensive. I mean, relatively compared to summer, the difference in price can be $500 or $600 difference per person on a coach ticket. So certainly that time of year is interesting. And you know what? I mean, I guess I don't mind the cold so much and having a cold vacation trip. So anyway, that's as we have the phone ringing over here, Ann. No
well,
problem. We'll just
well,
have them join our podcast. Our video.
perhaps the caller is wondering about which airline is shrinking the size of its carry-on bag.
Yeah,
That
here we go again, right? So, and I don't blame airlines necessarily for worrying that the two bag limit. So the airlines have sort of this policy, which is the bag that goes in the bin and the bag that's sort of smaller, supposed to be your purse or your laptop or something, or
right.
your small backpack that goes under your seat. And of course, everybody's abusing that, mainly because of bag fees and check bag fees. So it looks like another one bites the dust with British Airways slimming down their personal item, which used to be fairly generous. It was actually almost the same dimensions as sort of the thing that goes in the overhead bin. By the way, for you geeks out there, sort of the U.S. average is 45 linear inches, and British Airways on its check bag is over 50 linear inches. And this basically handheld bag was about 39 inches now, going down to about 33 inches. Now, my question is, who's going to be the police on this, right? I've been flying quite a bit the last month and a half or two, and the baggage police has been relatively spotty on certain airlines, right? So you've got, the gate agents that are the first wave of defense, and then sometimes they have apparently some folks that are actually contracted to look into that stuff. Holds up the line, the loading process is slow, is that bag too big? It's really quite a pain, actually.
Well, what's interesting, as you mentioned, the British Airways allowance overall is very generous. They allow you to have a carry-on bag can weigh 50 pounds, and that is way different from a lot of U.S. airlines.
That's getting close to a steamer trunk, right? So if you go through the metal detector and through the X-ray machine, pretty much 50 pounds should do it, right? So I know that, and I just got back from Europe with, family of 4. And no check bags the entire time. It was awesome. I know it was a 9 or 10 day trip. Everybody had color coordination for the women's side. They were using my backpack in some cases to carry some stuff. But it was really pretty neat because we got out of the airport really quickly. We used Uber in most of the places we were at, so we were able to get the smaller car because our bags fit in the trunk instead of having to get a bigger car in some cases. So really sort of, I've been to Europe at least 15 or 20 times without a checked bag. The only time I really check it is if I take my golf clubs, which isn't very often. And so, it just frees you from doing a whole bunch of stuff. I probably saved 10 or 15 hours in just craziness, dealing with bags.
I bet you possibly saved a lot more, because I have traveled to Europe with a checked bag, which I'm not going to do anymore because it got lost, and a carry-on is not going to do that.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about your checked bag if it gets lost. You can, look, I mean, it's not about the savings of $50, because on international flights you actually get a free checked bag on all the international airlines. It's just really about sort of simplifying. We were in 3 different hotels along the way. It was easy to get in and out. The repacking was pretty simple, so it just makes everything more simple.
Well, just as you point out, a lot of airlines give you a free check bag, but not all of them, especially the discounters. Lots of times they may not give you, they may charge that. I think Ryanair still charges for carry-ons, but these things change all the time, so it's a good idea to always stay up with those baggage fees. Airlines don't advertise that they're changing them for good reason. They don't want you to get mad.
When you're in Europe, you have no choice. If your bag is over about 18 to 20 pounds or a certain size, which is really small, I mean, way smaller than the personal size bag on some flights, they force you to check it, so you have no other choice. This was a couple internal flights in France that you're forced to check. So in some cases, even when you have carry-on luggage, you're going to be checking it as well. So just be aware of that.
Now, you recently wrote a column about 5 simple ways to save $50 to $300 or even more on your next flight.
Sure.
One of those ways was saving on the bag fee.
Yeah, this is just simple mathematics, right? So last year, U.S. domestic customers paid over $7 billion for check bag fees and change fees combined. So the easiest thing is not to participate in that $7 billion by not checking a bag. Of course, Southwest doesn't charge for a check bag now. JetBlue does. They didn't last year. And the change fee, you just got to take your trip. If you're buying a non-refundable ticket, you're basically going to lose on most airlines almost the entire value. And typically it's even worse because it's at the last minute when you're trying to change things and you have to pay the difference in price for the new flight, which is typically much more expensive. So the very first tip is, do not plan on changing your ticket and do not check a bag. Unless you want to, if you can check a bag, you can also waive those fees. Branded credit cards allow you to waive them. You have elite status. So there's some gaming you can do to save that money, but that's the first thing. I think go ahead, sure.
I was just going to say, and when you are looking at flights before you go, see if you can arrange your itinerary so you're really flexible so you can fly the cheapest days.
Yeah, there's no doubt that flying the cheapest days, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Saturday, are going to save you money. There's even the possibility of an empty middle seat. God forbid that actually that you had a little extra room on an aircraft. But you can also do this on half your trip. So like a perfect trip is Tuesday, Saturday, or Wednesday, or Wednesday, Tuesday for a full week. But even if you did a Tuesday, Friday, or Tuesday, Sunday, with Friday and Sunday being the most expensive, you get half that benefit. And as part of this, the easy way to see the difference in these prices on these days is comparison shop. So come to us. We'll also compare, not only the airlines, but the online travel agencies. In many cases, prices can be different even for the same flight for a variety of reasons, from airfares changing faster on one site to different inventory levels, different discounts, contracts on particular airlines. So there's a good reason to comparison shop. And when you're comparison shopping, part of that is also knowing what the alternate airports are for certain cities. I know that Fort Lauderdale many times is 10 to 15% cheaper than Miami. The airports are very close together if that's what you're doing. There's also many alternate or nearby airports in California. Some of the metro cities have them as well. So we were even talking about Florida and Sanford, Florida, where Allegiant Airlines flies. So even if you're in a city that has Allegiant, those are alternate airports, which are typically cheaper.
Well,
And the very last thing that I think is the toughest trade-off is especially with a family of 4 or 5, is convenience versus price, right? So that $700 nonstop looks really convenient, but with 4 people and the connecting flight's $350, that's almost a no-brainer decision. Is your time worth more, or is your money worth more? So in some cases, you just have to bite the bullet and take that longer connection.
Let the kids play in the airport, or you can sit there and have fun on your phone. But I think your best point is that you have to compare airfares because, and I think it's not, people don't do it out of laziness or things like that. It's because they have a favorite airline, and they know that favorite airline, typically a discounter, always has the best fare. And I've heard this from people who are big fans of Southwest, and for good reason, people that are big fans of Spirit, big fans of, JetBlue, all those guys. But as you always say, this quote is just burned in my brain, no single airline always has the best fare. And we've proven this time and time again. Sometimes it's United, sometimes it's American with the best fare, and sometimes a discounter that you're not familiar with. So you've got to compare.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, people love to compare anyway. They love to compare clothing. They love to compare electronics. So this is just part of the online shopping experience where you have this complete transparency out there. The important part is what a good price is. You need to pull the trigger in some cases because things do go fast. Remember, we're sending alerts to not just only you, but other people that want the same trip. And when tickets are purchased, that recalculates how much inventory they're releasing. So just remember, it's a very dynamic system out there for airlines. And what we're trying to do is steer you to the right times, the right time of day, the right time to buy, the right time to fly. And that's the most important part about getting a good deal.
Thank you, Rick.